It's weird as the camera turned itself off. It's always neat talking about Hitler and how Hitler was made out to see people in newsreels. And, not a very imposing person, probably in physical presence, but, hearing a strong German accent discuss something of declarations of war against an entire race and world is a little hard to take. And I came across some interesting cults, one of which led by the Maharishi, where he answered a disciple's question about Hitler and said that Hitler's soul, as I quote, was destroyed by God because it would take too many lifetimes to make up for all of his bad karma. And I think this is kind of remarkable now, considering that the Maharishi claimed to have cosmic and God consciousness and so basically knew everything. And I think, again, this sort of hyperbolic, dramatic, melodramatic way of talking about Hitler's spirit. Like, there's plenty of evil to go around human beings. And quite frankly, I don't think anyone pays for anything in heaven. I think because everything on earth is survival based, what happens on earth stays, essentially, because it's all survival based. The first thing that happens when you're dying is your chakras separate from your body and return in a very pure sense to their origins and the very mindscape of your spirit. A natural, beautiful natural resident of heaven, as you'd imagine an immortal bird flying in a beautiful cerulean air-like ocean where it never has to fear for anything ever again. Even if you had that for 5 minutes, a deep heroin trip, it would feel amazing, whether it's 5 minutes or 500 years. I tend to like it. And it is a natural part of our existence. It's the blue road. In our dreams and in the winter and in celestial stories and, euphoric moments and so forth, there can be something of the heavenly, something of the blue road. We can have to visit us, and we can visit that place. We can visit ourselves in that place. Imagine in nature and in life to be so pleasant and romantic a place as heaven itself could visit us, and we could visit heaven. It could be as though translated right into our life. And there'd be no loss of fidelity, but rather it would substantiate everything good that we do out of life in the first place, as though we were first substantiated and would be substantiated again in a habitation completely free of all survival stress. And that's the first thing that happens when you're dying, so to speak, is you're actually going to, you're relieved of all the pain and agony that comes from having a body that can be cut, burned, tortured, all neuroses, all depression, all anger, all anything related to your mother, your father, your life, your birth, completely erased, right? Not without its persuasive and lingering resonance, probably with future births, but not that it condemns you to anything either. The work of life, whether you're a serial killer or a victim of one, stays on Earth in terms of everyone's existence based in survival, right? Serial killers are made out to be like Jack the Ripper and the Green River Murderers. They're largely fictitious, played by royalty and actors to scare the fuck out of you. And certainly there are serial killings. And it would behoove us to understand the behavior of these people. Okay? Because then, guess what? We'd learn everything there is to know about the world. And we would probably be able to solve many other sicknesses. And the fact that we don't tells me that our problem is not just the serial killer at the extreme of human negative behavior and danger to your children. It's like a little bit of everything and everyone. A world that has serial killers is not a world behaving the way it should. And so added to all of our survival fears is these other stresses that are as kind of stratospheric as a serial killer may seem to your ordinary experience, can be also imagined to incarnate in various other as though murderous capacities among the human race, whether we kill each other quickly or slowly. And in any codependent relationship, or any violent relationship, where we are somehow unfortunately given to enter into unfair bargains, where we don't actually get everything we want out of it. And in some sense, we could be said, like the Christian, to know on a deep level that you can't be a Christian. Right? To know that there is no logical extension to being an American, except for maybe being a dead American. And that there is not a sufficient enough biological basis for our huge contrast religious imagination in various national and local and religious ways, to think that they have not been interrupted if they, by other agendas, grasped a sufficient hold of the power and immunological benefit of the power of the kind of levels of communication of what you could call the primal and subconscious human mind to ourselves, among our families, and through standards and signs of symbolism throughout time, and right up until what you can pick up from the ethers of just greatness and beauty in various ways, and ways that the mentality of humans can actually make you sick, and ways that the mentality of man can actually improve your life. That in various environments you might be prone to certain sicknesses, and in other environments you weren't. The environment feels strong, and one environment made you feel weak. As to how good someone said the environment was, you'd be like, it's making me sick. And humans, in all of our languages and technology, seem to all of a sudden become deaf to the most important knowledge there is, which is what makes us sick before we get sick. What pre-diagnostic set or sequence of conditions opens us up to sickness, opens us up to an unwanted amount of nationalism. If not a bad thing today, what about, when people were lynching people in the name of the American flag, or, invading some country that didn't need to be napalmed to death, or participating in a war that John Lennon indicated was like a party. You could throw one and nobody could show up. And how he became the head of Apple, right? Steve Jobs. And they play different roles in the world. And the Beatles actually had an album company called Apple back in the 19 whatever. These people are on a stage, right? They run the ultimate theater of the human mind, the theater of war, the theater of economics. All the major minerals, all the major property, and all the major power and persuasive theater of the human mind, many occult languages. So you're constantly pummeled with Gnostic, Kabbalistic ideas about duality, and how the major characters in any film have to base their identity on mutual annihilation, and all the perversions thereof. They end up becoming meted out in the minimum wage and the fucking interest rate before, during, and after every subsequent fucking depression of the human mind, every unnecessary gravity which is visited upon and incorporated into the amazing, generous, wonderful thing called human flesh and blood that takes a hit and keeps on ticking. It's better than a fucking Swiss watch. So our minds are very adaptive, but they give evidence that it might be worth exculpating the human mind from many of the more subversive costs of our incredible ability to go through history and still keep coming back for more without question. And so religion becomes an advanced way for the neocortex to keep rationalizing things without question, because certain things have gained such a dominant priority for deeper primal and emotional areas of the human mind. Like Mein Kampf said, if you lie big enough, most people tell small lies and don't think they'll get away from them. Lie big enough and you can go right into the emotional complex. And that's what all entertainment is filled with, stuff for the subconscious, because the truth will out. When you talk to yourself and your family is allowed to talk and communicate properly, a lot of things get said and communicated across time that have a great and powerful resolve that humans have enjoyed throughout thousands of years. You add TV and music and all kinds of subconscious signaling, and it's like we lose the ability to connect to each other throughout time. The mind is dealing with all of the subconscious signals sent through media, right? Because they know that if you spend enough time connecting your subconscious to your conscious mind, you'll see that films are not there to entertain you. They're made there to get sick, right? That how they control you is kind of making you feel a little bit ill all the time. Every way that they entertain you, they undermine you. They're not entertaining you, they're sickening you. If you can find something sensible and not too violent to watch because it's a nice way to spend some downtime, that's fine. But you have to be careful that you turn off the music in the film, and every now and then listen to the drum beat of the moon and sun and stars and everything that has kept you strong long before and long after this world ever contrived a way to entertain you. Self, I assure you. And there's more there than death to such the silence of your heart. There's a lot to keep you strong in the deep reflections that need no powerful army of religious slogans to keep you in that wonderful deep oblivion when the world ceases to lay sway and some persuasive hold over your mind and your flesh and blood. However wonderful it's supposed to be, you can just be here. There's just you, your mama, your papa. You didn't need that world. You didn't need all of its anything. Oh, certainly millions of people, a lot less than you think, flood the various cities and boroughs of the world. And our occupations are truly gigantic and probably the only thing that's truly galactic about the universe. Constantly swirling around a black hole so that our mother's estrogen and lactic acid can have the most damning effect upon the human race. And not to great advantage to themselves either. Much as we all attempt to wield some disadvantage or some vantage over someone, because everything is always underpowered and debt-ridden and poverty-stricken and full of delusions aplenty to help us get through childhood and adulthood and doing the same thing to our own children, right? Humans are so malleable, they're fucking like lubricant for your car. You just keep shoving more of it down their throats. I pass by schools and think, God, these people still put their children in these beautiful, pleasant, disgusting institutional environments. You know, no child should ever be separate from their parents for anything. Right? Being around your children enough every day is commensurate with a mother feeding herself every day while she's pregnant. Oh, man. I don't know if people want to be free. I don't think they know what they would do with themselves. You know, if they let their children grow, if they let them spend enough time. And yet, you know, I know because that we can all make our family stronger. It doesn't matter what you do and what you don't do. What matters is the spirit behind what you do and what you don't do. And just know that whatever you do and whatever this world is for you, it's your spirit that made it happen. It's powerful. It's free. It's more valuable than all the money in the world. People should be so lucky to have your spirit, you know, and your mother and father, that it can be freed in an instant by the sound of its name, and not that of any other god or system or slogan or language that ever commendably or not so commendably took you and your people's lives to make the world a better place. Well, you know what? You made the fucking world a better place the first breath you took. Breathe the purity into the lungs of this forest unlike any it had seen before. And don't let anything or anyone take that from you, much less with every beat of its so-called industrial heart that always loves so much and takes so much more to love.